Welcome into Jungle Tales, a Pirate Baseball podcast. We appreciate everyone tuning in. You're watching This Week in Pirate Baseball as we're taking a look back at ECU's 3-1 week. The Pirates are now 6-5-1 following victories over the College of Charleston 8-7, Rutgers 14-2 in 7 innings, Troy 5-2, and then the week unfortunately ended on a sour note as the Pirates were shut out 2-0 by the Western Carolina Catamounts in the finale of the Keith LeClair Classic. But right now, to take a look back at all that as well as to look ahead and kind of assess things as we're almost 25% of the way through the season, I'm joined by former East Carolina pitcher John, better known as Wool White. Wool, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you, Bubba. Yeah, very good week. Didn't end on the best note. Have to give credit where credit's due. Western Carolina came in and shut us down in a very efficient pitching game. So they threw 101 pitches. We couldn't get a lot of hits. We got 5 or 6 hits, and they were all singles. So we didn't slug, and that was missing from the game. But they definitely came in and handled their business and looked very good at it. So looking forward to a rebound against Wilmington coming up.
And now let me bring in from the state of Virginia, as well as Greenville, but currently in Haymarket, and that is Johnny Stats. Stats, how are you?
Hey, fellas, doing well tonight. Yeah, I'm going to echo what John said about the Western game. Our pitching, it certainly wasn't, the issue in that game or all week. Pitching was outstanding in all 4 games. It's just like John said, that left-hander that they started had been throwing well, and he was dialed in. And then, the guy that they brought in after him just kept it going, and we just couldn't get a barrel on the bat. And I have to say though, if you were to tell me, okay, we're going to go 3-1 this week. You can't win 4 games. You got to pick one game that you're going to lose. I would choose Western Carolina just because of the LeClair Classic and the Keith LeClair tie-in. And, I just feel like I didn't want to lose to any of those other 3 teams. I didn't want to lose to Western either, but, if we had to lose one game, it might as well have been that one.
So as you take a look at the week, let's go back to the midweek game against the College of Charleston. They had already won a midweek down in Conway against the Chanticleers. You knew it was going to be a strong test down at Segra Stadium. And Pirates were really able to come out early and have a ton of quality at bats, although they didn't really see the fruits of the labor, so to speak, until 2 or 3 innings in, but they were barreling balls up early and often, and then it started to, pay dividends as those rockets found holes. And you had, I think, Coach Godwin credit him on this because we clearly would not have known this had he not said it to the media. But he said there was, I think it was his weekly chat with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. He said in that game against Charleston that we had something like 14 consecutive quality at bats.
Yeah, and they came out and got ahead of us 1-0, but then we came back, and like you mentioned, we came back with 3 runs in the second. Kind of quiet until the 5th inning, and then it was kind of a 1 run in the 5th, 3 in the 6th, and they were getting quality at bats, no doubt. You saw what everyone's been talking about. Matt Lashley, great defender, obviously, but he is showing up with his bat right now, and he's been a big boost. I personally think that since he's been inserted in the lineup, it's kind of stabilized the entire team. And in the past, we had Coach Overton used to say, Barry Nairn was the glue to the team, and I feel like Matt Lashley at this point is the glue to this team, and they have really surged since then. But the usual suspects have been stepping up to the plate in that game, and they came out and delivered. Yes, we got the grand slam late. That kind of took things a little bit closer than we wanted, obviously, but we were able to come back and get the win. So very good outing with the plate appearances for sure.
Yeah, I especially, I was impressed with the 8-9 part of the order. We're 5 for 7 with a walk. 8-9 being, Matt Lashley, as you've already mentioned, and Walker Barron. And they kind of set the table. And then the 1 and 2 spots of the lineup, got the runs in. So if we look at the 8-9 hitters, 5 for 7 with a walk, 4 runs and 2 RBIs, and then the 1 and 2 spot in the lineup, which was, Braden Burris and Grady. They were 2 for 6, but they had 1 run and 5 of the RBIs. So, between those 4 spots in the lineup, I mean, that was where most of our offense came from.
Yeah, Jack continues to be the dominant hitter on the team. Seems like every game he's getting one or two hits, a double here. Grady continued off from his great weekend against Chapel Hill with three RBIs. So, no, he didn't have a great weekend this past weekend, but that midweek game he did continue to produce with the RBIs and the runs. So, yeah, like I said, usual suspects. We did see Walker Barron also continue his streak that game with 2 for 3 and an RBI. Seems to have solidified himself as the number 1 catcher at this point. Definitely offensively and defensively throwing some people out. So, it was a great overall team effort, and we did have the late blip in the radar with the grand slam. So kudos to them for making a little comeback. But as a good team, ECU was able to muster a run up and win the game late.
Yeah, some free passes out of the bullpen there late. Frank Saccone struggled to find the zone, and then had to bring Sean Jenkins in. And like Coach Godwin mentioned post game, he shouldn't have been in the game, but
yeah,
there was obviously the need.
Yeah, listening to the radio. Sometimes I like doing that, but in this case, I had to do it. But they kind of said, even though it's a 4-run lead with Sean in the game, you still feel comfortable on the bench as a coach. And I was thinking to myself, please don't say that again, because anytime the bases are loaded, they're 1 hit away from tying the game up. So anyway, that happened, and Sean rebounded. He did give up 2 earned runs. The 2 of them were not his. Like Bubba mentioned, Frank came in and with a 7-2 lead, and he was expected to finish the game. And like Coach Godwin said, Sean should not have been used, but it's great to have a pitcher of his caliber to be able to come in and shut the door. And he retired 4 of the next 5 hitters after he got a grand slam. So he went back to his dominant self after all the the base runners were cleared off the bases. So
yeah. After Linehan produced the sac fly there in the bottom of the 8th to take the 8-7 lead, Sean came out and did what you would expect him to do there in the 9th. As you mentioned, Lashley. And last week it was a rapid fire edition of This Week in Pirate Baseball. And as soon as the show ended, I text JR and I said, I cannot believe I even made a note and overlooked my note to mention the impact and not only defensively but offensively that Matt Lashley had. And we saw that continue into this week in a big way. Matt Lashley had 3 hits against Charleston. And then, as you mentioned, it was awesome to see Austin Irby have a couple of hits, and he had a very nice week. And then Herring and Barron also had multi-hit games in that one. Brett Antolik got another midweek start, or open, if you will. And instead of an inning, he went 2 innings. Very quality work. And then Nick Moran has been tremendous.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, the 2 of those together for this game, Antolik, like you said, pitched 2 innings, 0 runs, 0 walks, 3 strikeouts. And Nick Moran came in, he gave up 1 hit, 0 runs, 0 walks, 3 strikeouts. And between the 2 of them, they threw 69 pitches, to get them through 6.2 innings. And that's 10.3 pitches per inning. Talk about efficient. And that's what happens when you don't walk people. and and no hit batters, none of that. Those two were outstanding. And then as far as Sean Jenkins goes, yeah, after the grand slam was given up, not only did he come out in the ninth and take care of business, but it was strikeout, ground out, strikeout, and he threw 12 pitches, 9 of them were strikes. So he wanted to take care of business, and he did so.
Yeah, and that's the
Also-
one thing we're going to see this year that's a lot different from last year. The midweek games, we're going to have a lot better pitching outcomes based on what I've been seeing so far. Nick did actually retire 14 to 15 hitters at one time. Did give up, or did Luke Payne did come in for him, and Luke only pitched 1 inning, 14 pitches, and was taken out. Frank came in and gave up 3 earned runs. So those middle guys there with a big lead did not do their job, and we had to go to Sean Jenkins. And Sean's obviously been one of the best pitchers on the team, if not the best pitcher. Came in a high leverage situation with the bases loaded, and it just happens. I mean, he did walk somebody, but when you have him after you have a lead, you think that you have things shut down, but it just proves to you that baseball, you never know. And he gave up the one swing. It was a home run. That can happen. Bases loaded, tied the game up, but he did come back firing in the closing the game out. So we just got to get a little bit better gamemanship out of Frank and Luke and see if they can find out what's going on and get their game turned around, and maybe get back in there in some situations where they can figure that out for us.
Yeah,
Also note,
I just wanted to say real quick about Luke, because we need another left-hander out of the bullpen. And Luke, I know the perception is he's not performed up to, and he probably is. He's not happy with how he's performed so far, but he's only thrown 3.1 innings, and he has 3 innings. Like he has shown, and he had a 3 strikeout. 3 pitch strikeout. So, I mean, he's shown that he can be overpowering at times, but, he just has to get it together and just focus, I guess. I don't know. What do you think, Will?
Oh yeah. I mean, he went to Tennessee for a reason, right? So he has a high grade arm, and we do definitely need lefties, especially playing at Clark LeClair, where we know the wind blows out a lot to right field. So, Frank's been pitching in games where we have big leads, so he's having to fill the zone up, and that's kind of bit him a little bit. But he needs to get back in there and figure out what's going on too, because he was a Friday starter coming out of St. Joe's, and but yeah, we have right now. I talked to Bubba about this. 6, 7, as they say, the kids now, 6, 7 reliable arms, maybe an 8th. And we have others that have proven in the past they can pitch. We just need them to start pitching.
Yeah.
Yeah, of note, Brett Antolik was battling some effects of the flu, and he was certainly not the only one. Coach addressed it in the post game, and Brett Antolik, Ryan Towers, Blade Carver, Jeff Sabater. You saw Austin Irby as we kind of transition into the Rutgers game, the first game of the Keith LeClair Classic, and Irby, what a night he had, and we'll elaborate more on that in a minute. But wanted to start with Ethan Norby. Norbs had not been himself in the first 2 starts of the season, but in this one, he much more like what we're accustomed to seeing. 5 2/3. 2 runs, only one of those was earned on 6 hits, struck out 10, did not walk a batter. He did hit 2, but a very fine performance by Ethan Norby.
Yeah, great to see after a couple rougher outings for, as we know, Ethan's a Friday starter, and we expect that Friday starter to be dominant, but it doesn't always mean that early in the season. He didn't pitch in the fall, so he coming off of his Team USA in the summer. So he might still be trying to get in the groove of things, but he obviously showed that even in the first two games, that he got touched up a little bit, but he still can strike people out. And then in this game, he had the 10 Ks and 66, 66 Ks or strikes and 102 pitches. So he had 7 ground out lineouts. There was that RBI double in the third, but he struck out the side in the sixth, and then he left. And he did show exactly why he's the Friday starter in this game. So hopefully we'll start seeing that more often in the coming weeks.
Yeah, what I found interesting was, we 10 run ruled him, so we only had to pitch 7 innings to him. But after Ethan Norby, went to the dugout, Ethan Rose came in, and we have the Ethan and Ethan show again, like we did last year when I think Ethan Young came in after Ethan Norby 9 or 10 times, and those two seemed to work well together. And Ethan came in, gave up no hits, no runs, did walk one, got a strikeout, and he closed things out. So, maybe that's something that combination we might, be seeing more down the road.
Ethan Rose has been a bright spot. He's a freshman. He comes in there and does his thing. So he's going to be put in more, if he keeps doing that, he's going to be put in more high level positions on the weekend. So it's good to see that. And it looks like we have coach confidence in him. So that's a solid thing. He's done a lot of good work for us.
Yeah, the Pirates continue to swing hot bats after showing a significant improvement in those previous 3 games, and ECU put up crooked numbers in each of the first 5 innings. 13 hits on the night. You combine that with 8 free passes, and you had 10 guys with a hit, and all of that added up to 14 runs across 7 innings and a 14-2 win. And early on, I think it was in the bottom of the second, Grady Linehan had an absolute mammoth shot about just shy of 400 feet. I think it was 398 with maybe an exit velo of 107 or 108 to left field.
Yeah, if the trees were not there, then Charles Boulevard may have been marked on the side of that ball, but it was hit so far. But yeah, ECU came out strong. Their starter didn't get out of the first inning, I don't think. I remember, I think I sent you guys a comedy review of that first inning. They actually threw 47 pitches in the first inning, and it said that's baseball's equivalent of the doctor saying you might feel some pressure. So, yeah, 47 pitches in 1 inning is not a good thing.
No. We had, even though, we only batted for 6 innings, we had 26 base runners, 13 hits, 6 walks, 3 hit by pitch, and then 4. Their defense had issues. We had 4 guys reached by error. I know the second baseman dropped a ball. The catcher dropped a ball. The pitcher threw one away. And then the center fielder and right fielder collided and, ended up in a base runner on first. But yeah, they had their problems on defense. Rutgers did, but we batted 419 for the game for the entire team, and we went 4 for 4 in stolen bases. So I mean, as far as 6 innings of baseball, you just can't ask for much more than what the Pirates put on the table.
Yeah, and I know the fans are probably waiting for Austin Irby to hit some home runs. He finally got that monkey off his back in the game as well. So hope to see him delivering more into the jungle in the future.
Yeah, Coach was laughing post game, he's talking about the performance of Austin Irby, saying that he didn't even know he's going to be in the lineup, and so he finishes the game 3 for 3, 3 runs batted in, 2 runs scored, a double and a home run. His first of the season. That it may have even hit the Taco Bell sign, but I know Mully on the ESPN Plus broadcast, he said that's the closest I've ever seen anybody get.
Yeah. Yeah, I was watching. I was trying to figure that when he was talking, trying to figure out what he meant by that. I know what he meant, but I didn't really see it, get close to it, but maybe it did. But my eyesight's not the best sometimes if I don't have glasses on. So
yeah,
anyway,
it was extremely close. If it did not hit it, I went back and and replayed it. It was just over it if it didn't nick the top of it.
Yeah. overall for the game, Rutgers is not a bad baseball team. They've shown that this year. Actually, when you commit 4 errors, you're not going to win a lot of baseball games. And they kind of threw the ball around. They just didn't look in sync that game, and not sure what happened. But they're a better baseball team than they showed. We did go out there and dominate this game, and it was a great pitching performance from a number one Friday starter against a team that struggled defensively, and then we were just relentless pressure, base running, contact, a lot of good situational hitting, and there were 6 unearned runs in this game for Rutgers. So it was probably from an offensive perspective, we probably had the most rounded game from the entire lineup.
Yeah, in addition to 3 hits for Austin Irby, you had 2 hits for Jack Vogeley. I think that was his third 2-hit game of his young Pirate career. But anything else about the victory over the Scarlet Knights out of the Big Ten before we move on to Saturday's 5-2 win over Troy?
No, but I will say, following up on Jack Vogeley's 2-hit performance, it's all or nothing with him. It seems like he has 3 multi-hit games, and then the other 8 games he's hitless. So when he gets a hit, they come in pairs. It seems like. So hopefully he'll do that more frequently.
And he's another player that people are expecting to hit a lot of home runs and doubles and stuff. And he does get the ball out in the outfield a little bit, but for the most part, this year he's been a line drive type hitter and a ground out, but he has hit the gaps a few times. So I think he's still trying to find out his swing a little bit, his swing playing, etc. Maybe start showing some of what he did at college last year. We all know that he had a monster season. So, but I do think people are expecting a little bit more from the home run perspective, and maybe he can deliver and get that monkey off his back like Ethan did this weekend, or Austin did this weekend.
Moving on to that game with the Troy Trojans out of the Sun Belt, Troy, a very successful program, especially in recent years, under Skylar Meade, the South Carolina alum. And Troy had won a game at UGA in the midweek. And yeah, their record was only around 500, but it's so early. That was a very quality win, and it's going to be one that I think will be a very solid RPI win as the season wears on. But it was a very well played game. Neither team committed an error. The game was played in just 2.5 hours. ECU did not issue a free pass on the mound. Troy, I think, had 4, but the Trojans jumped out to a 1-0 lead in the top of the third on an Aaron Piasecki home run. Then Matt Lashley immediately responded in the bottom of the third with his first ECU bomb, and then Pirates took the lead for good later on in that inning when Austin Irby hit a rocket off the pitcher that kicked into the 4-hole, and ECU had a 3-1 lead.
Yeah, this was a good game, and Troy, like you mentioned, very good team. They came into the game after beating Georgia, and the Georgia pitcher that got the loss was an ex-Pirate and Brad Pruitt. But they came into the game, and Georgia's ranked 10th in the country. So, and after the year they had last year, where they were like the last team out, they barely. And maybe East Carolina was the reason they didn't make the regionals when we won the tournament. But anyway, good team coming in, always danger. And we did see Matt Lashley get his first home run. So he continued his hitting. He's been a hitting machine ever since he's been inserted in the lineup. So able to get that home run out there. And Gavin Van Kempen, GVK, out there doing his thing and looking good on the mound, in control, not a lot of walks. He came in from West Virginia. A lot of people thought maybe he had a walk problem or this, that, and the other, but he has not showed that this year for sure.
Yeah. As far as our offense was concerned, the 1 and 2 spots in the lineup, Braden and Grady, this is never, this is going to be a rare occurrence, I can assure you, but they went 0 for 8. So again, our 8 and 9, batting positions came through, which was, Lashley and Colby Wallace. They were 5 for 8, 2 runs, 3 RBIs, including, Lashley's first home run, as you noted. So, it was kind of a trend. The 8-9 spot's been doing really well for us lately. And I do hope that continues. Obviously, against Western, nobody really hit well, but, the 8-9 in the order seems to be working. So hopefully that continues. And I was going to say also, in that game, we had 4 RBIs with 2 outs. Austin Irby, there were 2 outs, and he had a 2 RBI single in the third. And then Colby, with 2 outs, had an RBI double in the 6th. And then Davin, with 2 outs, had an RBI double in the 7th. So, I mean, that's something that we need to continue to do as well.
Yeah, and Mr. Consistent, Jack Herring also got 2 hits and 2 runs. Now, this game could have been a little bit more wide open. Like you mentioned, Grady did go 0 for 4, but he left 3 left. He had 3 left on base during the game, and every time he comes to the plate, people, especially after what he did in Durham at the DBAP, are thinking that he's going to deliver some RBIs. He's had so many RBIs that you just feel like he's going to do something every time he's at the plate. But the game could have been a little bit more, a bigger difference in the score. But we did leave some runners on base with the bases loaded, et cetera. And overall, a good solid win, kind of a ho-hum, get through it. We had great pitching again. When you have GVK and Jenkins coming in once again to get the save, throwing 3 2/3, 4 strikeouts. You had 13 strikeouts total for the game. So, yeah, great overall effort. Just a solid game all around.
Yeah, and Vogie, as they call him, Jack Vogely, he had his only 2 walks of the season in that game. And the first walk was on 4 pitches. And then the second walk was pretty impressive. I mean, it was a 9-pitch effort where he had to foul off 4 consecutive balls to get to ball 4. And so, I know his batting average isn't what we want it to be. And I know you see some flaws in his approach from time to time, but he has shown patience and shown a good eye. So, hopefully the hits will come.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, based on what we saw last year, it's obvious that he definitely can hit. And, going back to Grady, obviously the book, as they call it, is out on Grady on where he might be vulnerable. He's a very aggressive hitter. He likes to swing on early pitches. He also likes to swing 2-0, 3-1, something that we're not used to seeing at East Carolina. Once he starts figuring that out and starts developing a better approach when it comes there, you're going to see one of the best players East Carolina's had in a while. He's obviously shown this talent level, but he did struggle a little bit on the weekend. And like I mentioned, it looks like they're starting to pitch him up and in a little bit, trying to get in on the hands. And he's swinging at those higher pitches, not the best pitches. If you get one right in the middle of his belt line, he's going to put it somewhere you don't want it. And that's what they're trying to avoid. So they're going a little bit higher the belt line, and then some outside sliders, obviously low and away. So I can see a definite trend on how they're pitching him, and the book is going around. So we'll see how he develops as a hitter. He's only a freshman, as everybody knows, but he's going to have to develop and learn as pitchers learn him. So that's baseball. You're constantly learning. Pitchers are learning you. You develop tendencies, and they learn them. Pitchers develop tendencies, and batters learn that. So you always have to try and stay away from those tendencies and work on that type of stuff.
Now, we'll kind of elaborating on that, the double in the left field corner by Colby Wallace, because Colby here early in the season has definitely had his struggles at the plate. But that was awesome to see. Coach referenced some changes that he and Bryant Packard and Jake Gotro, the hitting coaches, have been working on with Seawall with his stance, and
yeah.
I think making him a little more upright there in the box. So,
Oh yeah, and that ball was in on him, and he dropped the hands quick and got around. It was a very good swing, and he delivered it to a spot where nobody was at. So, yeah, he's one player that we've been expecting more. He's been dropped down to the lower part of the lineup, but he went 3 for 4 in this game. So it looks like he may be turning things around. It's obvious we need him. It'd be great to get him back up in that 5-6 area after his season he had last year. A lot of RBIs and home runs. So look to see some big things from Colby coming up, and it does look like he's improving at the plate.
and
Yeah,
not to
that
go
was one
down.
of his. I was going to say
Sorry,
that
go
was
ahead.
one of Colby's longest at bats of the season. You know, he was in a 1-2 hole there, and then he drew a couple of walks before he hit that double. So, you know, that he's showing, you know, again, a good eye at the plate and more patience than that he's been swinging at the first pitch a lot
Yeah.
prior to this weekend. So we'll see how it goes from here. But I agree with you, Bubba. We know he's going to be a factor in the near future.
Yeah, the way he dropped the barrel on the ball on that ball was low and inside, and he just dropped that barrel right on it and barreled one up and got it out there. It was a great at bat.
And not to go down a rabbit hole here, because we'll go ahead and move on with a few more final thoughts about this Troy game, and then of course Western. But when you were talking about Grady Linehan swinging at high pitches and him being attacked up and in, which game was it that I think it was one of our games, and not another college baseball game that I'm thinking about, but there was a pitch that was up and in that was absolutely tomahawked.
Yeah, that was the one that the guy's eyes were underneath his swing plane.
Yeah, who was that?
Wasn't that against? No, that was. Yeah, it was this game against Gavin.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember now. Now you got me thinking here.
Yeah, so that was Piaseki's home run.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
knew I
So
knew it
look,
had to. I knew
that
it
was
had
a
to be.
waste. So let me put it this way: that was a waste pitch. There is no way. Look, he got it up, and nobody typically would swing at something like that, but he turned on that, and it was a tomahawk. It was above his eyes. Basically, his swing was above his eyes. You could see his eyes below his swing plane, and he he crushed it. As something you don't typically see. So that was just an oddball swing, and he got a hold of it, but he did deliver on it.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I
And
watched the
when I
replay.
say Grady swinging at higher pitches, that's not the high that I'm talking about. I'm talking about around his chest area.
Oh yeah, of course. But yeah, just the thought of swinging in a high pitch, I was like, you're saying, you were talking letters, and this was. I watched it probably 5 times. It was so unbelievable that he was able to do what he did with that pitch. That it was literally above his head.
Yeah, he shocked everybody. Even GVK was probably thinking nobody's going to swing at this pitch, and the guy did and hit it for a home run. It's pretty wild uh, chain of events there.
So Seawall's double had made it a 4-1 game. Then Troy was hanging around. They had an RBI double of their own to make it 4-2, and then Davin Whitaker, who had a pretty good week, 4 or 5 hits on the week for Davin, and he had an RBI double that pushed our lead back out to 3, and that's where it finished.
Yeah, I think one of the key aspects to this game was obviously no walks, hardly. If we had one, I don't remember it, but from a pitching perspective, that seems to be something that we have cut down tremendously this year. Last year, we had a problem with walks, other than Norby and a couple others, but this year it seems like that's been a real point of emphasis with the starting pitchers, especially. You got 3 guys that go out there and fill the zone up, and that's always a good thing. And they have good enough stuff where they can put it in the zone and not get hit hard either. And they will. All pitchers do, but for the most part, their stuff's so good. And if you can keep runners off the base and give up only solo home runs, that's the key. And you obviously saw what happened earlier in the week when you give up walks, and then one swing of the bat can change the whole outlook of the game. So they're doing a lot better job of that this year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was gonna, Bob. I was just gonna follow up on what John said. For the LeClair Classic, for all three games combined, 36 strikeouts by our pitchers, 3 walks, 36-3. And if you take the pitchers, the top 6 pitchers with the most innings pitched, combined, they have 89 strikeouts and 12 walks. That's a 7.4 to 1 strikeout to walk ratio. And to put that in perspective, last season, the Pirates were 2.2 to 1, which wasn't bad, strikeouts to walk. So 7.4 and at 36-3 for the weekend is rare air.
That's going to win you a lot of ball games, Johnny.
yeah, it really is. And you take a look, the Pirates had 4 guys with multi-hit games. Davin Whitaker, 3 for 4 with an RBI double. Colby Wallace, 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a double. Matt Lashley, 2 for 4 with his first career home run. And then Jack Herring, 2 for 4 with a double. Jack leads us now, I think, with 6 doubles on the season. And then we talked about the performance of GVK. GVK had been very good against Xavier in North Carolina, and he turned in his best outing in this one, going 5 1/3 with 1 run on 4 hits, 9 strikeouts, and not issuing a walk or hitting a batter. And as a result, Gavin Van Kempen is our PGXGloves.com pitcher of the week. And now he has 18 strikeouts to just 2 walks across 13 2/3 innings over 3 starts. And that was something some people just taking a glance at his 2025 numbers had a concern, would he throw strikes on a consistent basis? And that has, as those numbers bear out, a strikeout to walk ratio of 9 to 1 thus far.
He's pitching very well, showing why he's the day 2 starter. And yeah, well deserved. Great weekend.
Yeah, and I'll give you a quick stat on Gavin for the season: 13.2 innings pitched, 6 1-2-3 innings. I mean, that's nearly half. So that's getting it done.
Yeah, that feels pretty good as a coach when you got a guy going out there getting 1, 2, 3 inning outs. So, yeah, one last thing about this game, kind of a funny part of it when Herring singled and then Whitaker, was it Whitaker doubled or was it Irby? I can't remember.
Whitaker, they both had a double, but I think that was
But
Whitaker.
it was the one where Vogely got thrown out at home, trying to score. I think if Coach had that to take back, he would have definitely held him up and let Walker come up to the plate and get another at bat in there. I'm not sure that Vogie's the one that you want trying to score from first to home on that play. I know it was a wild play, and but there was short outfield play there. All they had to do was throw it basically from the deep shortstop position to home to get him out. So
yeah,
I think Coach would have took that one. But
yeah. And then Vogie just tried to. They sent him, and that was Davin's double. Though you're correct about that.
The tag was applied. What about at least 15 or 20 feet up the line?
Yeah, that was not the best idea there. I know that they were thinking that there was a lot of mess going on in the outfield and maybe they were kind of out of sorts, but the guy collected himself and then made a throw home and beat the runner by a lot, as Bubba mentioned. But yeah, would have liked to seen Walker get a chance at an extra at bat. You always want another at bat when you can, but they were trying to be a little aggressive there, but I'm not sure that he'll do that again.
Yeah, Rutgers had us thrown out as well, but the catcher dropped the ball. In that game, they had us pretty much 10 feet down the line.
So
but,
that left fielder for Rutgers was struggling on his throws.
Oh boy,
there was another one where we probably could have scored, and he was held up, and the ball was like thrown almost between catcher's plate and the first or third base dugout. Yeah.
A final thought. I think JR may have already run over these numbers, but just in case, Sean Jenkins, 3 2/3, 1 run on 2 hits, 4 strikeouts, and no walks. So in that 5-2 win over Troy, ECU pitchers struck out 13 and did not issue a single free pass. Pretty remarkable.
Great game
Absolutely.
by both pitchers. Awesome.
So now going into Sunday's finale, the Pirates had really had a very offensive week, but they were seeing a young, talented lefty for Western Carolina, and we had heard from Alan Beck that he was someone to keep an eye on, and that he would indeed be getting the ball on Sunday, and he had an excellent outing, going. I think it was right around 5 innings. And the Catamounts had 3 arms, one of which I actually met. Was it James Fordham, the 5'11" righty that came in, first pitcher used in relief, ran into him with my parents pregame at Jersey Mike's, and we were laughing about that. And then he came out and really shut us down.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when you were telling us that. I said, did he order his sub Mike's way? But anyway, yeah, that pitching staff. Wow, Evan Myers. When he's on the mound, he's not a very imposing figure, but he pumped it up there about 93 miles an hour in the first inning, and a lefty, and he kept the batters off balance. 5 shutout innings, only 4 hits. Yeah, very great outing. Actually, it's not just very good. He pitched very well against a very tough opponent in East Carolina, especially those top guys up there, and kept us off balance. And then, of course, the other 2 guys came in and closed out the final 4 innings without allowing a run. So it was just an overall dominant performance by them. You tip your hat when that happens. They only threw 101 pitches, and the last time that happened, was Jason DeCaro in 8 innings. So both of our shutouts, the opposing pitchers have thrown 101 pitches in those games. So interesting.
Of note in this one, the Pirates only got 6 hits. All of those were singles. ECU did only strike out 3 times, so we were putting the ball in play. And there was some balls barreled up. I can think of one there, probably in the middle innings, into the right center gap, where the WCU center fielder made an excellent diving catch going to his left. But all in all, like Coach said post game, not enough solid contact, not enough quality ABs, despite only striking out 3 times. And you did get 2 guys on in the first inning with just 1 out, unable to cash in. And then really the next best opportunity after that came in the 5th, where ECU was trailing 2-0. And it was 1st and 3rd with 2 outs after Matt Lashley had singled, advanced on a wild pitch, and then Braden Burris laid down a bunt single. And then, unfortunately, I think Grady Linehan hit into maybe it was a 3 unassisted double play.
Yes, it was. Yeah, Braden and Matt Lashley again, only 2 guys that were they got 4 of the 6 hits, I believe. And it just overall wasn't. And Jack got another hit. I mean, he's just been a machine this year. And then Austin Irby got a hit. So our 4 hits were Braden, Jack. Our 6 hits were Braden, Jack, Austin, and then Matt Lashley once again produced. So he was squaring up balls. And the thing is they were doing the shift on Lashley. I know you guys knew that, but he was still getting the ball through the right side. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, I was commenting to a gentleman in the jungle, and we were just chatting it up throughout the game. And I said, Matt Lashley just continues to produce quality at bat after quality at bat. He was 2 for 3 on the day, and that the one time he was retired was a line out to shortstop. But
that was a good stroke on the ball. It just went right at him, right?
Yeah, it was
Matt Lashley
well.
made excuse me. Matt made great plays in the field as well.
Yes, some there. I guess probably in the middle to late innings there was a play. He was positioned fairly up the middle, and or he was moving to his left, and the ball was hit back to his right. Made a nice diving stop as he kind of a sliding stop, if you will, and I think I'm trying to remember if that was one where he threw it to first or if he went the short way to second. But there were multiple there where we saw what we had been hearing, preseason, and that is that Matt Lashley's an elite defender, and we see it time and again here in the last several games.
Yeah, we've mentioned it a few times. One error all of last year down in Indian River, and this year's a 1,000 percentage fielding. So he's looking to continue his stellar defensive play. But the key point here is he's brought a bat that a lot of people didn't expect to the lineup, and that's been a very good sign.
On the mound, Colby Weber. Sorry, go ahead, JR.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, with Colby back at third, that the left side of the infield is just impenetrable. I mean, you're not getting through, and that's so important because that's the side that bit us the first couple games.
Yep.
And now we have that under control.
Two elite defenders on the left side for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, Bubba.
No, but before I move on to Colby Weber and another quality start for Colby, did want to mention some numbers defensively since we're going in that direction and talking about the impact of Matt Lashley. Since that 4-error game against Campbell, I'm pretty sure that we've only had one multi-error game, and that came against Rutgers, and those were after the Pirates were subbing late. I think he had a throw-in error by Alex Boucher, and then we had an E by Carlos Hakame. But
yeah, that was the game where everybody was making Alex. He's playing first base, and the balls were all in the dirt. That was I'm not sure what happened when Alex came to first base, but everybody wanted to test him over there for sure.
And he did really, really well. I hate that he had that error because that's the last thing he needed. But I certainly, like you said, I thought he was impressive on defense. It was that throw was, maybe he was too hyped up or something. I don't know, but I thought he played a great first base.
But since that 4-error game against Campbell in Game 4, over the last 8 games, the Pirates have committed just 5 errors. I think 4 error-free games, and of course, just that one with multi-errors that I mentioned against Rutgers, where it was once the issue was decided. So ECU playing much more like itself defensively, and that's awesome to see. But kind of getting back now to Colby Weber, had another solid start. The Catamounts did have 8 hits, but the bottom line is he only allowed 2 runs across 5 1/3, striking out 7 and walking just 1. And those are obviously winning numbers, even though the Pirates didn't win because we weren't able to do anything offensively.
Yeah, Colby's a freshman. He's grown up. He's as advertised. He had a great high school career. He only lost 1 game in high school, so there's a reason for that, and we see it on the mound every Sunday. And yeah, he did give up 8 hits, as you mentioned. He did give up the home run. So he's given up 2 home runs, but it's not been a lot of damage. So that's going to happen, especially with a guy that's in the zone as he develops a pitch. I did notice that his curveball had a lot more bite to it this past weekend compared to the weekend prior. But he's a great pitcher. I know that. I think when we spoke to him, he was saying he liked the big 12-6 curveball that Clayton Kershaw throw, but Colby doesn't throw it the same way. His ball's a lot harder. His curveball's a lot harder thrown than Clayton Kershaw would do. But he's got a good mix of pitches. He stays near the zone. And sometimes when you're pitching near the zone, these guys at this level are going to touch you up every once in a while. It's just you want to limit that by not putting people on base giving up solo home runs and moving on to the next batter. And that's what's happened with him this year.
Yeah, I mean, Colby, of all of our weekend starting pitchers, people don't realize he's pitched the most innings of any of the three starters, because he's consistent. And when it gets runners on base, he normally works his way out of a jam, and he gets a lot of swing and misses. And I love watching him pitch. And
Yeah.
I just, every time I see him, I see something a little different, and I appreciate him a little bit more. So, hopefully it continues. But so far, he's been dynamic.
Yeah. And you have a 1-2-3 punch right there. And then Sean Jenkins coming in, depending on when he has to pitch. And then right now, also in this game, Moran came in, and
Yep.
obviously Moran has been pitching lights out. He went 2 innings, struck out 3, 1 hit, and then we also got a little bit of Brett Antolik there on the weekend. So 1
Yep.
inning and 2 Ks. So another great pitching performance by the pitcher. The pitching staff. Is just the hitters did not show up on this game, and you got to give credit where credit's due. Western Carolina's pitching did just as well as ours.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of the weekend pitchers and 1-2-3 punch, this was the first weekend that the Pirates starters on the weekend pitched into the 6th inning since February of 24, when Trey Savage, Zach Root, and Jake Hunter did it against UNC. So, I mean, that's something that we need to get back to. And like you said, what it does is when your starters are going that many innings on the weekend, it sure makes life a lot easier for the midday games.
Yeah.
So your options. So
yeah, you have a more rested bullpen, right? So midweek
yeah,
games are important. We were talking with Coach Randy Hood earlier, and we talked about that especially towards the end of the year. You start looking back and how did you do in the midweek games, and that if you do well in the midweek games, that gives an idea of what your pitching staff is like and how deep it is. It's important. Not only that, in the midweek games, you don't want to use a whole bunch of pitchers either, especially if you have 2 games in the midweek, which we have another week that's coming up that we'll have that. And you don't want to have, use of like 10, 11 pitchers going into the weekend, and you want to have a fresh bullpen when you go into the weekend. So what's happening now is we're going to start seeing the 1-2-3 punch, as we called them, start going a little bit deeper as the weather warms up and they start getting in their groove. And so that's it's a very positive sign. The pitching staff looks excellent right now. I'm very, very impressed with that. Right, we do need a little bit more consistency from the middle of the lineup. 6, 5, 6, 7 area. Once we get that, we've seen great stuff from the front of the lineup. It's been impeccable until this game, other than Braden, and Braden seems to always be hitting. And but the end of the lineup, as Johnny has mentioned a couple times, has been excellent here lately. So once we get the whole shebang going with the middle part of the lineup, we should be fine. With this pitching staff, this team should win a lot of games.
I have one more stat that I'm going to throw out there, because I feel like this encapsulates, what the pitching staff is doing for us. This is everybody. So the opposing batters against our pitchers have struck out 109 times. They've walked 27 and been hit by a pitch 20 times, and no intentional passes. So they're 62 upside down there. I mean, they've got on base a total. They have 47 free passes and 109 strikeouts. So, like I say, they're 62 upside down there. Now, for our hitters against opposing pitching, we've walked 41 times, only struck out 62, been hit by pitches 20 times, and Austin Irby's been, intentionally walked 3 times. So we have 64 free passes and 62 strikeouts. That is crazy.
Yeah. What is our team ERA? Do we know?
Yeah, I have
it is.
Oh, go ahead, Bubba.
It is 423. So it's
Yeah,
not
we've
as
had.
good. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, we've had those outings where Frank and Joe Webb have given
Right.
up some runs there. That kind of skewed it a little bit. But our starting pitching, if you go Sean Jenkins, GVK, Colby Weber, Ethan Norby, Nick Moran, Ethan Rose, those six, I'm sure, is a very low ERA. That's going to be, and Brett Antolik as well. Yeah, nice pitching staff.
Bubba, what number did you give? Did you?
423.
Yeah, that's what I have. I think that's pretty good. I mean, considering the schedule, the two teams that are in front of us in the American, Wichita State's at 371. Their schedule is not, well, I'm sorry, 321. Their schedule, though, that they've played is extremely weak. And then South Florida's at 331. So, and then we're third. So
Yeah, what is UTSA ERA right now?
UTSA dropped down because, again, their schedule was brutal this weekend. They're 496.
Yeah, so they give up a little less than 5 earned runs a game, but they score probably 12 runs a game right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right now, the one thing when we discussed UTSA prior to the season was the fact that maybe their weekend was a little bit cloudy as far as their pitching. Then they go out and lose one of the best pitchers in the country for the season. So then you think, oh wow, that's not good for them. But
No.
they're just out there out hitting people right now.
Yeah.
So
We knew it could happen. But there may be an adjustment there. I mean, I don't know. If they keep it up, it's going to be a tough task, especially since we have to play them in San Antonio. But I feel like they can't keep up those numbers.
yeah, the hitting wise is incredible with some of those guys hitting over 500, 600 with the OPS, but pitching wise, they're 1-2. So one's out for the year. Their number two, the Australian guy, is really not their number two anymore. He was going to try and be number one, but now he's probably moved out of the 1 and 2 role because he's gotten blown up on.
Yeah, he's gotten hit really, really hard. I threw those stats in the group chat, but I don't have them off the top of my head, but they're not good.
Yeah, so they're going to have to
two
figure.
starts.
So going back to what we talked about, I felt like it was a cloudy situation with the starting pitching. I think he's going to have to figure that out. Obviously, he's a great coach. I will never doubt anything that he can do down there, but he's going to have to figure out that pitching staff. And like JR mentioned, they cannot continue to slug at this percentage. I can't see how that's possible, especially when they get in league play.
Yeah.
Yeah, here in just a moment, we'll take a look around the American, and as well as maybe a few results from college baseball as a whole last weekend. But before we do, we've talked kind of ad nauseum at this point about the impact of Matt Lashley, both with the glove and at the plate. And as a result, he is our PGXGloves.com Player of the Week. Matt, 8 for 13. Home run, the first of his ECU career. Had another RBI in addition to that. 3 runs scored, also walked, so reaching base in 9 of 14 plate appearances. And we've already mentioned several of his nice plays at shortstop. Congratulations to East Carolina junior Matt Lashley on being the PGXGloves.com Player of the Week.
Yeah, so every week we're starting to have the same problem. You got about 3 players you can choose from. There's an argument to be made for several players, it seems like every week, a few players anyway. But in his case, for me, what would put him over the edge was his defensive play and his continued hitting at the plate, and just how, since he's been inserted in the lineup, the team is just gelled defensively. So that's that glue that Coach Overton always talks about. And you want to have a tough shortstop, a tough center fielder. Up the middle has to be strong, and he's came out and delivered exactly what was needed for this team after struggling early trying to find a solid defensive shortstop. So congratulations, it's well deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. He saved us a few runs for sure with some of his defensive efforts.
Yeah, he has. Making plays yesterday that gave the Pirates a chance, and unfortunately, ECU just unable to to cash in there, get anything going offensively, but the pitching and defense gave you a chance. And for the season now, I think Matt is hitting 500. He's 10 for 20. And I'd say out of those, I'm trying to remember how many walks he has, but whatever, a little over 20 plate appearances. And I would guess that he has something like 16 quality at bats. I mean, his quality at bats are off the chart, because I know even when he's made an out, I mentioned the hard hit ball that he had to shortstop yesterday against Western Carolina. I remember a hard hit ball that he had fairly deep at the D-BAP against the Tar Heels. So hopefully that continues for the Pirate shortstop.
Yeah, like Jack Herring, he's not striking out a lot, puts the ball in play, makes things happen, and it's always a good stuff. When you have a shortstop that plays impeccable defense and can deliver what he's doing offensively, that is one of the best things you can have. And I know those are very hard shoes to fill at shortstop, is to be a great defensive shortstop and also be a solid hitter. But he's been above and beyond just solid. He's been a great hitter. So that's really impressive. And hopefully he can keep it up. It's early. He's only had 22 plate appearances. 20 at bats, but he has 10 hits in those 20 at bats, only 2K. So, in the small sample size, he's done very well. Very impressed by the young man.
Before we talk about what transpired in the American Conference, Wool, I know JR and I have already talked about this, but I want to get your thoughts on the new uniform combination that the Pirates wore at Segra, breaking out the powder purple tops with white pants with a purple pinstripe and dark purple sleeves under that powder purple jersey.
Yeah, and I heard about it when I was listening, and I did see some pictures. It's a little bit different, but yeah, the powder purple or power purple. I've called it power purple in the past, but I like it. I love the gray bottoms, to be honest. We used to have those when I played. Typically, we stuck to the whites, but when we wore the grays and had the purple tops, we loved it, and that's a nice combo. I like it.
I agree. JR and I both thought those white pants with the purple pinstripe and the purple sleeves, really made really
Yeah, and for me, I'm a
highlighted
little
the
bit.
powder purple jersey.
Yeah, for me, I'm a little colorblind there. It almost looks like the purple on the top is making the pants look grayish to me.
Yeah, I'm a little bit colorblind too. Will when I first saw them, they reminded me of the Kansas City Royals uniforms, but those were powder blue, not powder purple. But hey, if you get a chance, check out Kansas State. What they did, they have a powder purple top jersey, and they, instead of going white like we did, they went dark purple for the pants, and it's horrible. It's one of the
Yeah.
worst uniforms I've ever seen in my life. So I think the way that we did it is, I think it's an improvement over the all power purple.
When's the last time we saw like a dark purple for East Carolina Pirate baseball top? Have we seen one recently?
I can't recall.
I was just, the reason I'm saying that is because I think my senior year, which was the 1991 season, we did have that combination of white with a solid dark purple top. That was one of our newer uniforms back then. Obviously, they try a lot different things now, but no, I like it. I like the softer color. I actually have a jersey that's a lighter. I'm calling it power now, but power purple as well. So I can wear it to the game and feel good about myself.
There you go. And the hex has been lifted for both the white helmets for football and the powder purples for baseball.
Yeah, the white helmet on the football. Yeah.
Yeah, those hexes have been broken, so we can proceed without worrying about it.
A few minutes ago, you guys were talking about what UTSA is doing. The Roadrunners broken in the top 25 this week. Was that the D1 baseball poll? I'm assuming.
Yes, they were 25 in D1.
Okay, 25th in the D1 baseball poll. Now 10-1 are the Roadrunners. That lone loss came at Texas State 7-2 last week, but they produced obviously a 3-1 week, bouncing back with a 6-5 win over the Buckeyes, and then really taking it to the Chanticleers down there in Texas, 16-10. And that was a game I think they led something like 13-0, and then they beat Baylor in the final game of the weekend, 11-6.
And I think they have Texas Longhorns coming up midweek, so that'll be interesting to see how they fare there.
Okay, yeah, I knew that game is coming up soon. I know they had Corpus Christi, and then also a 3-game series at New Mexico State, and UAB. The Blazers are 7-5. They had a 3-1 week, defeating Alabama State in the midweek, and then taking 2 out of 3 from Turner Brown and the Jacksonville Dolphins. Wichita State is 9-3 after a 3-1 week, taking 3 out of 4 from Omaha, winning 3-2, 10-3, 5-2 before dropping the 4-game series finale 15-8. Memphis is 3-8. They won in the midweek as they kind of canceled out, didn't cancel out, but responded to a close loss to Arkansas Little Rock by blowing out ALR 24-5, and then they dropped all 3 to what has been a very good Jacksonville State program, 10-1, 9-4, and 7-1. FAU is now 6-5 as they fell to Miami 11-7 in midweek, but then swept Villanova 11-4, 11-5, and 15-5. Tulane 8-4 after a 3-2 week that saw them split a pair of midweek games, falling to a crosstown rival New Orleans. The Privateers won that one 11-3, and then they on Wednesday defeated South Alabama 15-2, and then they took 2 out of 3 from Eastern Kentucky on the weekend, 5-4 and 11-3 in games 1 and 3, dropping the middle game 6-3. And then Rice, the Owls are now 6-6. They fell to Houston Christian 11-8 in midweek, but then swept Harvard 11-7, 2-1, and 9-0. And then last but not least, the Charlotte 49ers, Robert Woodard's club, is 7-3 as they had a 3-0 week, defeating Maine. The Black Bears fell to the Niners 9-4. And then Charlotte had a game rained out against the Old Dominion Monarchs, but they beat the Monarchs 13-0 and 7-6. So there you have a look around the American. This week for East Carolina, they're traveling down to the Port City to take on the UNCW Seahawks. We caught up with Randy Hood, as Wool referenced a few minutes ago. That will drop on Tuesday sometime, so stay tuned for that conversation with Coach Hood. And then this weekend it's down to face Kevin Schnall and the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. The Chanticleers have really had a lot of tough news here in the first month of the season, as they have seen their Friday and Saturday guys, Cameron Flukie, thought to be the top pitcher in the country by most people, and then Hayden Johnson, their Saturday guy, they're both out for 8 weeks. So they are probably unavailable until at least late April or early May. And then Dominic Carbone is done for the season, their stud closer. So a lot to overcome for the Chants, but they are still 7-4. Last week they were 2-2, defeating Campbell down in Conway 13-7. And then they dropped 2 out of 3 down in Texas, losing 8-1 to the Longhorns, 16-10, as we already mentioned, to UTSA. And then they had a really nice win over Ole Miss, 9-2 on Sunday.
Yeah, they'll get some confidence back in that team. They're going to be a tough team. Obviously, it's tough to overcome what they've lost pitching-wise, but they still have a formidable team, and it'll be an interesting series this upcoming weekend. Going back to UTSA, you're right. They are playing Texas A&M Corpus Christi tomorrow, but next week they have Texas Tech. So Go ahead, Johnny.
I was going to say, and one of the dumbest things to do at this part of the season is to look at the RPI, but I can't help myself. I got to do it. Those numbers are meaningless, but just to show you that they're meaningless, right now, Bubba was talking about UAB. They're number 10 RPI. It's completely crazy. We're currently sixth in the conference in RPI. But it's just silly to think that UAB is a better team than UCLA, and they are rated higher. And UTSA is number 5, and they got South Florida at 65, and Wichita State at 72, and Charlotte at 28. All those teams will be coming back towards us, and we're going to be going up. But I just found it interesting that the disparity in the early RPI numbers, just because there's not enough data points to enter to make that system work. Not yet.
Yeah, and Coach Hood even touched on it a little bit. I mean, don't even look at it right now, but Charlotte is going to be up at the top of the league. It looks like they've kind of turned things around from the beginning of the year when it looked a little bit shaky with the pitching, but I foresee them being at the top 3-4 position in the league. And the one RPI I can agree with is Southern Miss being number 1. That team is awesome right now. So we'll see how they do. They're ranked number 10 in the country at this point. But D1 baseball talked them up. That was one thing they got exactly right. They haven't been right on everything, but like Virginia for one thing and Duke. But they did get Southern Miss right, saying they're going to have a big year this year, and it looks that way.
Agreed. Hey, before I leave UAB, in the dustbin, I will say one thing about them. They've hit 21 home runs this season. That's got to be like tops in the country. Not tops, but it's got to be like in the top 10 of the country, maybe top 5.
And what do we have? About 6?
I think we have 7.
We have 7.
I believe 7 is correct. And on the doubles watch, because I think after opening weekend, we had 11 in 3 games.
We were on pace to break some records. We got 24.
Have 24 still a very respectable 24 through 12 games. So you look at that. If we continue the current pace of 24 through 12, you're going to be looking at obviously well over 100.
112 in the regular season, 56 games.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the doubles thing is good. They're still doing great. Obviously, we thought there were going to be a little bit more home runs. Irby has not gotten off. We figured he was going to be 14, 15 at least home run guys. He's still coming along. He did get the monkey off his back on that, so we shall see. And hopefully, Vogie starts lifting some balls up and taking them deep. He did hit a couple, but it was warning track type stuff at this point.
Right. Yep. I definitely, or there's no doubt, we'll see those numbers rise. As the season goes on, the temperatures continue to get warmer and warmer. But guys, that's about all I have. Any final thoughts? I know one of the things nationally, you saw Clemson after dropping the series opener to South Carolina in Greenville. I think it was 7-0. They bounced back to even the series with their pitcher. Just had an unbelievable 78 pitch complete game as they beat the Gamecocks in Columbia, and then they won in Clemson to take the series.
That sounds like Greg Maddox type stuff right there.
No kidding.
Wow. Yeah, South Carolina coming in, and they did take a game from Clemson, and they did have a rubber match, but South Carolina shockingly has lost to Army and Queens this year. So not sure what's going on down there, but overall record's good, but losing to those two teams is not what is expected in Columbia, obviously, and wonder how that's going to pan out towards the end of the year if they have another bad year with the coaching situation.
Yep. I think I told you, and this is strictly nothing more than kind of connecting dots. I said if Troy has a very good season And depending on how things shake out in Columbia, if they have anything remotely close to what they did a season ago, which I don't think it'll be that extreme, but if their results aren't enough that they'll hang on to Paul Maneri, you could very well see Skylar Meade potentially get some consideration.
Oh yeah,
It'll be interesting to see.
yeah, and I guess two subpar seasons for South Carolina for Paul would probably be the end of it in today's world where coaches don't have a lot of time to get things done quickly, right? So that'd be interesting. But yes, you're right. If Troy does do what they did last year, you can see that coming to fruition.
What about other results nationally? Anything that you guys had on your radar or catch your eye last weekend?
We talked about the UCLA Mississippi State game. That was awesome. That's a tough game early in the year between probably 1 and 2 or 3 best teams in the country. We see why Rock Chawaski is considered the overall top pick. Maybe he won't get it depending on who has the money to pick him up in that slot. May drop, but he's an elite shortstop with a lot of power. I think he homered in the first 5 games of the season. UCLA has another bat, has 6 home runs too. He has 7. So UCLA looks like the real deal. I think we're going to see them back in Omaha again. Mississippi State definitely, even with the loss of a stud pitcher, they have that freshman that came in and he's throwing 101, 102 miles an hour. So they look like they're going to be just fine. One thing that I did notice, and we know that Missouri had a hard time winning any games in the SEC last year. They're actually playing some pretty good ball this year after having to try and rebuild everything. So, like to see how Missouri comes out this year and see if they can do a little bit better in the SEC. And as far as the ACC goes, I think Johnny, you and I have talked about this. They have some teams. Wake Forest came out, lost the first game of the year, hadn't lost since. So they got a lot of teams scoring a lot of runs in the ACC right now.
Yep, the Deeks are a one-loss team. The Wolfpack are a one-loss team. As NC State is 10-1 and will be hosting Coastal Carolina. Certainly a game of interest as the Pirates will play 3 against the Chants this weekend and then play a couple against the Wolfpack later on in midweek action as the season moves along.
And Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, we can't possibly not mention this from the past weekend. You being a pitcher, Will, I know that this will pique your interest. Did you see UT Arlington's pitcher against Arkansas? He went 8.
The mad Hungarian?
Kalen Dagger. He went 8 2/3 innings, 130 pitches.
Oh, that one. Yeah, that's.
And UT Arlington, they took down Arkansas 4-3.
That's a great win for them. And you talk about 130 pitches in today's world. That seems outrageous. That was just standard back in the day. But we had a series last year where 2 pitchers threw over 125 pitches against us. That was the 2 Rice starters, day 1 and day 2.
Yeah. And then, like you, I'm very much interested in UCLA with Will Gasparino and Rock Chalosky together. It just seems like they're going to win a lot of games. I mean, just with those 2 bats, and they got a lot of great pieces around them. I don't know. I'm going to try to catch as many of their games as I can. Yeah. Since you're on the West Coast, I'm guessing that I'll be able to see some that won't interfere with watching Pirate baseball. But I'm not a fan, but I definitely want to watch more UCLA baseball.
Yeah, last year after they were playing, UTSA played them in the Super Regional, and I was thinking, well, UTSA may have a chance against UCLA. But after I watched them play, I'm like, wow, this team is elite defensively. Now they got hitting coming around this year. So if you got that combination, it's going to be tough. But a live update for you right now: LSU, number 2 team in the country, is losing 13-5 in Skip Bertman Field or Alex Box Stadium, Skip Bertman Field, to Northeastern, who's 2-6. So that'll be a big win for the Coastal, Johnny, Coastal Athletic
Yeah, thank
Association.
you, John, for being politically correct there. Yeah, it's always the colonial to me, but I'm gradually getting used to Coastal.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that might be
yeah,
the
that
biggest win in Northeastern college baseball history if they can pull that off.
Yeah, and speaking of biggest win in history, Queens has never beaten a Power 4 team. I don't think they've beaten a Power 5 team. Maybe they have, but when they beat South Carolina, that was their first win in their history of beating a Power 4 conference team.
Yeah,
that was nice to see Queens go down to Founders Park and take down the Gamecocks. But this and every episode of Jungle Tales is brought to you by PGXGloves.com. Visit PGXGloves.com and check out their excellent selection of batting gloves, also football receivers gloves, DB gloves, what have you. But you can use promo code Jungle Tales in all caps with no spaces. Again, Jungle Tales in all caps with no spaces to get 25% off your entire order at checkout. And there you see some of Mark Minikazi and PGXGloves.com's excellent selection with the Miami Vice gloves, the Eye of the Tiger gloves, the Goat gloves, which would have been awesome for Jake Gautreaux back in his playing days at Tulane, and then the Mad Clown gloves. But guys, I meant to lead the show with this, but Cliff Godwin and Jeff Palumbo traveled up to, I guess it was Radford, Virginia today for Joey Rakuya's celebration of life, the young man for the Radford Highlanders who unfortunately was killed in an automobile accident last week. And then the first game that the Highlanders played after that, they were able to get a walk-off win, which was awesome to see. I'm trying to remember who the opponent was, but it was a quality opponent. But thoughts and prayers to Joey Rakuya's family, and then of course just everyone associated with that Radford program. And I can't imagine what they're going through right now.
I hadn't
Yeah,
heard about
that's a
that.
tough loss. Yeah, I'd heard about it, but I didn't know that Coach P and Coach G went up there. That's good for them, and way to celebrate the young man's life. Rest in peace.
Yep. And then so guys, if y'all don't have anything else, we'll go ahead and get out of here. Any parting thoughts?
I'm good.
Got a big weekend.
Wait, my parting thought. Yeah, we have to beat UNCW, please. I'm really looking forward to watching that game, and I would love it. We need to get off to a great start this week, and that would help tremendously.
Yep, and Coach Randy Hood, who we interviewed earlier, great coach and great ball player. And I hate to say it, but he came out of Campbell, and we know how gritty those teams are playing East Carolina. So he brings that attitude to the game. I'm gonna be honest, we didn't really preview the Wilmington. They have some great starters right now. They're not going to pitch them midweek, but their pitching is outstanding this year right now. It really jumps off the page, as Bubba said, right?
Yeah, 297. Again, that's a 297 team ERA, and opponents are batting just something like 188 against Seahawks pitching.
And he's got 4 freshmen that are pitching a lot too, to go along with those 2 juniors that are doing real well. And he's got a couple guys that have not came up to speed yet. So, yeah, UNCW is going to make some waves this year. So we need to be ready. We know who's going to start for them on Wednesday. He released it, so to us anyway.
Of note, despite that gaudy team ERA and opposing batting average, they did have a midweek game down at Charleston Southern that they were forced to win 11-10. So yeah, who knows? It'll be interesting to see whether it's more
Well,
of a pitcher's duel or if it's more like that game where it's your kind of your stereotypical midweek game.
Yeah,
that's
when
funny,
we get,
Bubba, because they're the only team to beat Charleston Southern this year. They're 10-1. So, and that game
Did
went
not
11
know
innings,
that.
I think. Yeah.
yeah, wow. Yeah, I didn't know that either. Thanks, Johnny.
Hmm.
Good stuff. But again, that will do it for this edition of the show. Follow us on social media. There you see at Jungle Tales Pod on Instagram and X. And then also subscribe to the show on YouTube. Also, like and follow on Facebook. And be sure to rate and review and follow us, subscribe on Spotify. But that will do it for this edition of This Week in Pirate Baseball. We'll talk to you later on this week as we'll have a preview with Joe Katz, the play-by-play voice of the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, as we'll preview this series between ECU and I think this week something like number 15 or 16, Coastal Carolina. But until then, for John White and Johnny Robertson, a.k.a. Johnny Stats, I'm Bub Rosenbaum. You've been watching, listening to Jungle Tales, and as always, go Pirates.